The Southern Utah Sports Report is back, talking Region 9 basketball. We've also got Utah Jazz, Utah Mammoth, Vegas Golden Knights, and more. Let's get on into it in today's episode of the Southern Utah Sports Report. Welcome back on in, everybody. Southern Utah Sports Report. Brought to you by the Fan Sports Network. My name's Caden Formaster. Thank you for joining me here inside of the Findlay Hyundai studio today, December 8th. Happy Monday, everybody. Well, let's talk a little bit about our local sports. We're going to start things off today talking Region 9, recapping some of the basketball from across the weekend and from the tail end of last week. And we're going to be looking forward to what's going on this week in region play. First up, let's talk boys basketball. First things first, there were a lot of tournaments this week. Everyone was all over the state of Utah, and in some cases, there were some games that were played outside of the state of Utah when it comes to the girls. The girls basketball was played at least against competition from outside of the state of Utah. But we had a fantastic slate of games going on for you here. And let's start off with some of the first ones. Let's take a look at some of the scores recently. Now, I will say conflicting reports on the Skyview Crimson Cliffs game. Okay? That's report number one, was 47-48. The other report I'm seeing was 39-40. I do think the 39-40 score is actually the legit one, but someone who maybe is a little closer to that could let me know, because, again, that's just what the reports that I got were. So if that is what it is, then great. Then great. That's what it is. So, so 30, either way, 39-40, whatever the final score was, Crimson Cliffs loses by one. Kind of in a wild game in this last game on Saturday. This was at the Spectrum up in Cache Valley in Logan. And so just out of character, we'll say, for Crimson Cliffs to be able to go in and lose to a team like Skyview like this, especially after you had other teams like Hurricane who played them so well earlier this week. And so just an odd loss. I feel like they play this game 9 times out of 10. Crimson Cliffs probably doesn't lose this game more than twice, I would say. Just a very odd loss for them. But they did fall to Skyview, and up to this point have kind of had a little struggle to start. This tournament up north was not great for them. And so, Crimson Cliffs comes up short to Skyview. Hurricane also came up short to Ridgeline. However, they did have a successful tournament up there. They beat Skyview 75-43. We talked about this, mentioning how Skyview is a very beatable team. Hurricane proved that. 75-43 was the win over Skyview. They also got a win over Mountain Crest, 67-40. So, as far as going up against this Regional 11 competition goes, they're doing good. They're looking pretty good doing it. Brigham Kemp had 20, and Asher Blair with 12, Clyde Barrett with 12, all of that in that game against Skyview. But, the struggles came up against Ridgeline. Ridgeline is proving to just be good competition. Pretty good team up there in Ridgeline. They've only got one loss on the season. That was to Westfield, and it was a close game. They beat 3 Region 9 teams this weekend. Ridgeline did. They beat Desert Hills, Crimson Cliffs, and Hurricane. So they might be the real deal. We'll see if Riverhawks show themselves as a legit threat, especially when it comes down to it in the tournament that's going to be up at Weber State later next year in 2026. We have Desert Hills getting the win over Logan as well. Now, Logan, very similar to what Cedar has done this year. Logan taking that step down to 3A. They are no longer in a Region 11 team. We saw that in football, and maybe for good reason. They're 0-6 so far to start the season. Hasn't been great. It has not been great, but we'll see, because they are 3A. Not, Cedar's 3A in football, 4A and everything else. Logan just went straight down to 3A. They've struggled to get numbers in their school. They're struggling to have people come out and just do well in sports, to be completely frank, which has been rough for them. And Desert Hills was just the latest of 6 losses for this Logan Grizzlies team. But they are in a region where I think they could potentially have success. They've got teams like American Heritage, Grantsville, Ben Lomond, Morgan, that's Ogden, all in their region. So we'll see how they do. But congrats to Desert Hills on getting another win. Good win for them. This tournament as a whole was, you could say, maybe slightly unsuccessful. They did lose to Ridgeline, lost to Green Canyon. So they're looking to bounce back. They do have a game coming up this week against Hurricane. Region play starts this week, which is wild. We'll talk more region play coming up here in just a little bit. Also, in some other scores, this is a little closer to home. We had Juan Diego and Pineview going head-to-head. Pineview getting that win 62-50. Syracuse was also going head-to-head against Snow Canyon. This was a win for Syracuse, 70-51. Now, there were some games on Friday as well. We covered those games for you. Myself and Paul Ratliff were on a game, and then Paul hung out later and went with Devin Dixon to call the next game. So it was Snow Canyon and Juan Diego and Pineview in Syracuse. Both Region 9 teams losing on Friday night. Pineview bounces back, though, on Saturday and gets the win over Juan Diego. Not a great game for Pineview on Friday. Played much better on Saturday. But by the looks of it so far, it does look like Pineview is still going to be a really good team. They just fell short in the one game. And we'll see. They've got Bishop Gorman coming up tomorrow. That's going to be a very tough game. Bishop Gorman, we know all about them through their football program. And then when it comes to basketball, I would dare say they're probably going to be fairly similar. They've only lost 2 games, but those 2 games were close. And, well, I should say the second one was close. The first one, not so much. But, they're playing tough competition. So we'll see how they do against Pineview. We'll see how they do. It'll be interesting. It'll be good. This will be a good test for the Panthers. And anytime we're playing good competition, hopefully, it leads to either learning something about who you are and your identity, or maybe you walk away with a win. I think for Pineview, they're looking for wins. So that's going to be exciting for them. All right, let's take a look quickly at what the Region 9 basketball standings are up to this point. We haven't talked a lot of Dixie. Well, they haven't played a lot of games, to be fair. But in the games that they have played, they're winning. 3-0 to start the season, which is a great start. It's a great start. They haven't played, though, since November 22nd. It's been a little bit. They played Green Canyon. They won that game. They played in the Coach Walker Classic. That's the last time we've seen Dixie basketball. So if you're wondering, hey, how come you're not talking Dixie? That's why they're just not playing. You can't talk about a team if they're not actually on the court. So that's what's going on with them. Pineview 4-1 so far to start the season. That one loss going to Syracuse that we mentioned from Friday night. Desert Hills is 4-2. Hurricane also 4-2. Crimson Cliffs even up at 3-3. Snow Canyon 2-3, and then Cedar 2-4. And to talk about Cedar, they haven't been a part of all of these tournaments that a lot of these other St. George schools have been a part of. Kind of just been running their own schedule a little bit. They've done everything from going to Richfield to North San Pete. They were home against Virgin Valley out of Mesquite. They have been all over the board, and their 2 wins came early. Their first 2 games of the season were wins, and then they haven't won one since then. Lost to Roy, Richfield, Virgin Valley, North San Pete. They do host Crimson Cliffs on Wednesday. So Wednesday, again, start of region play. That's when they're going to get into it. They will have some non-region games during the Christmas break. Because region games really only are going to be played for the first little bit here in December, and then it'll go back to some non-region until January. And then we'll get back into it around January 7th is when region play will kick back in, just so you know, to go through that schedule a little bit for you. But that's how things are shaping up right now in Region 9 for boys basketball. Quickly, let's talk about the girls. Going to go over girls basketball for just a moment here. A lot of teams in action over the weekend, actually, on Saturday, Sunday, or not Sunday, excuse me, Friday, Saturday. You had teams like Snow Canyon getting a win over Richfield. Dixie, huge win, 64-23 over Rancho, which is a school out of Nevada. Just to name a few, Crimson Cliffs with the loss to Lehigh. Cedar lost to Provo, which seemed to be a good game. Desert Hills with a big win over Green Valley, 73-21. Yikes. Pineview winning as well, 68-37. So a lot of scores going on in girls basketball up to this point. It's been an interesting preseason. Some teams have struggled to find wins while others are doing really well. And it's kind of got this big split here up to this point. Dixie undefeated, 4-0. Desert Hills 4-1, Snow Canyon 4-2. Snow Canyon started off slow, but they've been winning recently. Pineview is 2-3, Cedar is 2-4, Crimson 2-5, and then the Hurricane Tigers 1-3. But it's still early. A lot of this can change around right now. Dixie looking to be the team to beat. Coach Winters has them looking really good up to this point so far in the season. They've beat some decent teams. Most of them, though, are lower competition. Talking about they beat Delta, they beat Page out of Arizona, Monument Valley, and then Rancho out of Nevada. They have a really good test coming up on Thursday. That's going to be a game against Wasatch here in town in St. George, going to be at the Hangar. So go check that game out if you're in town, want to watch some girls basketball. And that's probably the game to watch right now with the undefeated Dixie Flyers taking on Wasatch. And up to this point for the season for Wasatch, they're also undefeated. So 6-0 team. So that's going to be a very, very good game to watch is Wasatch at Dixie on Thursday. All right. That's a little bit of an update for you for the, for region basketball, As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you are someone who listens to the podcast, this is also put on YouTube so you can see my lovely face every single day as well, plus any of the graphics and things that we've got on the broadcast here today. But we do have some news coming out of Pineview, and that's an update for Pineview football, which that is that Coach Hosner is going to be back at Pineview. He's been at Pineview before, obviously very, very long tenured coach at Pineview High School. They went with Coach KJ Boyer over the last few seasons. They've decided to move on and go back to Coach Hosner. I don't know the ins and outs of what's going on there, to be completely honest with you. And maybe that's not even my place to get into it, but I do know that the change has been made. Coach Hosner is coming back to Pineview to coach. And so, I think for a lot of Pineview alum, people who, whether they played under Coach Hosner or they've worked with him or they had kids that played underneath him, really enjoy him as a coach. And a lot of them were sad to see him go. But that is what it is. I had a really good relationship as well with Coach Boyer. I always enjoyed chatting with him before games and whatnot. So best of luck to him in his endeavors. He's an awesome guy as well. So, and I know he gave his all to being a coach at Pineview High School. So best of luck to him and to Coach Hosner, who's now back at Pineview High School. All right, let's move on. We've got so much to get into now. Out of the high school realm, let's get into the professional realm, moving things along here. And that's going to be talking some Utah Jazz. They fall to the Thunder. Who hasn't lost to the Thunder at this point? That's just how things go, because that's how the Thunder are this year. So if you are a Utah Jazz fan, don't feel too bad about this loss. Everyone's losing to Oklahoma City. They are 23-1 to start this year. Only 3 teams. They're one of 3 teams to at least have that good of a record. I think they're on a 13-game winning streak as well with this latest win against Utah. So, yeah, that's just how it goes. They are going to be playing on Wednesday. Not the Jazz, the Thunder are playing on Wednesday as a part of the NBA Cup. So the NBA Cup starts off this week officially with the bracket play. I mean, the pool play is now over, and the bracket play is now started. So they've got a game against the Suns coming up on Wednesday as a part of the NBA Cup. As far as the Jazz are concerned, though, they did have a little bit of a rough run this weekend out in New York, taking on the Knicks. They lost that game 146-112. And if you watched any of that, you know that they started off ice cold. I want to say they didn't score their first points until the New York Knicks had already scored like 23. So, yeah, not good. Not a good game for the Utah Jazz, but it's just kind of been one of those seasons. Markkanen was out this last game against the Thunder. I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about, but of course Walker Kessler's been out all season as well. So it is what it is. Utah they have to deal with it. It's a very young team. They're growing. I would hope that they're going to start to take some steps forward, but we'll see. We'll see. This still may not be their year. I do think they get closer to about 20 to 25 wins this year, would be my guess. So they're on track for that, if anything. So they've got the Grizzlies coming up on Friday. Kind of a long run here. The focus for the NBA is to put some focus on those NBA Cup games, which are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday. So with the focus on those games, they leave the schedule open just in case. And then, the Jazz don't play until Friday on the road in Memphis to take on the Grizzlies. Then they're back home on the 15th as well, by the way, with a home game against the Mavericks. And no Christmas Day games for the Jazz, but if you're looking for something to do around Christmas break, the Jazz have a few home games. Grizzlies at home on the 23rd. The Pistons are in town, which they are a fantastic team. So if you want to watch some good basketball from Detroit, they have been balling this year. Detroit's in town on the day after Christmas, the 26th. And then the Jazz are also at home on the 30th against the Celtics. So if you're looking for some sort of Christmas gift ideas and you look for something to do during the holiday season, there's a couple of options for you with the Utah Jazz. Moving on, Utah Mammoth. They are taking on the LA Kings tonight. Now, they have also been struggling. It has been a little rough go for the Mammoth. For a team that started off the season so strong, they have kind of fallen off. They're still okay. They're just okay, though, but they want to be a playoff team, and as of right now, they may be struggling to find the playoffs. They've got to kick it into gear. There's some talk about maybe they need a coaching change. Maybe there's something on that side of it that needs to happen, and that's a legit possibility. That could be something to look at. And maybe trying to get some trades done before the trade deadline. That could also be a conversation here for the Mammoth. But most recently, they lost to the Flames, who are not a good team. They've beat the Flames already this year, so losing to them here is rough. They had that fantastic win over Anaheim. They had a great win over Vancouver, but you can only hold over on those wins for so long. So the Kings are going to be tough as well. Tough competition coming up for them, actually, over the next few weeks. They've got the Kings today, the Panthers, reigning champs, at home on the 10th, the Kraken on the 12th, which that should be a good game as well. And then they are on the road to take on the Penguins, the Bruins, the Red Wings over the course of the stretch through the middle of December. So they also are avoiding Christmas and no Christmas games for the NHL here for the Mammoth. And they do have some around the holidays, though. At home against Nashville on the 29th. On the 21st, it's a little before, but it is a Sunday. They're at home against Winnipeg. So a few home games sprinkled in there during the holidays and during the break, but most of them are going to be road games for the Utah Mammoth. So as of right now, though, they are sitting on 14 wins, 13 losses, and only 3 overtime losses. So kind of close to 500, pretty close, but it's really more about the points than it is win-loss records. And they're sitting on 31 points. Same as Edmonton Oilers, for those who care. And the Kings, who they're playing tonight, have 33. So 33 to 31 total points on the season. Should be a really good matchup against LA. So Kings in town. We'll see how that goes. Moving on, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights. While they are not in action tonight, they were yesterday, and they had an OT winner in New York against the Rangers. 3-2 was the final score of that game. So you Vegas Golden Knights fans, you're looking at a team that's done pretty well. 14 wins. They're playing very similar to the Mammoth in some ways. The only difference is Vegas Golden Knights are finding ways to get into overtime games to at least gather a few extra points in overtime games, whether that's a win or a lose. They've had 8 overtime losses, which is a lot. That's a lot of overtime games, 8 of those being losses. But they got one today, or yesterday. They got one in a win, 3-2 against New York. So pretty good shot for them at continuing on and making the playoffs. I do think this is another playoff year for Vegas, which shouldn't surprise too many people. But they have a game tomorrow as well to take on the Islanders on this little New York run that they're on. Then they're going to be in Philadelphia, in Columbus, take on the Blue Jackets, and then they're back home as well. So if you're looking for some holidays as well for the Golden Knights, if you want some home games, they got a ton. Vegas Golden Knights, they are home a lot here in Las Vegas during the stretch through the holidays. The Sharks on the 23rd, Avalanche on the 27th, Wild on the 29th, Preds on New Year's Eve. It's an early game as well, 1 o'clock p.m. on December 31st. All of those home games. So if you're looking for something fun to do, there you go. That's something fun to do. How about it? All right, that wraps it up for the Southern Utah Sports Report. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a fun show just to get back in action. We've taken a little bit of a break, and the reason for that is just because it's been kind of quiet while we've transitioned from high school fall sports to high school winter sports. And yes, of course, there is always Utah Mammoth, Utah Jazz, that kind of stuff to talk about, but I like to try to bring it closer to home if we're going to do a show. I want to talk more St. George-related sports, not just our Utah state sports and not just Vegas sports. I want to talk a little bit more than that. If you've noticed, we haven't talked a ton of Raiders, and the reason being is because the Raiders are horrible this year. I'm sorry, Raider fans. You know it. We all know it. They lost 24-17 to the Denver Broncos. Congrats, Denver. Hey, you know what? Denver's on a crazy run this year, 11-2 to start this season. So I shouldn't say to start. We're almost at the end of the year for the Denver Broncos. And by the way, with Kansas City Chiefs losing, Kansas City Chiefs are 6-7 now on the season. It looks like they're out of the playoffs at this point. And Broncos are going to be in. Broncos are in, not just in. Broncos are potentially a favorite, which is wild. That's crazy. Yeah, man, best of luck to the Broncos for the rest of the season. Maybe, I know there's a lot of Bronco fans here in Southern Utah, so maybe they can find a way to pull out some more wins. And hey, is the Super Bowl on the horizon? Who knows? Because right now, they're looking like one of the best teams. Crazy Broncos Patriots. Feels like 2015 all over again. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me here on the Southern Utah Sports Report. We will have more for you coming up, so stay tuned to our social media pages, to YouTube, and make sure to subscribe wherever it is that you find your podcasts, whether that's Apple or Spotify or Amazon or YouTube. Of course, you can subscribe to our YouTube page. Wherever it is that you find the podcast, just follow along. And hope you enjoy the show. We got more coming up for you at a later date with the Southern Utah Sports Report. We'll see you.